Cool. Hi, everyone. So welcome to today's APAC community call. So today we are going to continue our APAC study quarterly updates for the two studies, one from Hong Kong U on COVID-19, and then the other one from Nicole on MS. So before we do that, again, we want to kind of really quickly share about OHDSI news. So I think, yeah, one thing we probably have already, some folks have already looked at it. It's, there are other tools and especially, PLP packages for prediction. I know it's always very hot topic that we do have general reps to kind of the 10 minutes mini tutorial on that for the June 21 community call. And also on top of that, we did have, I think last week's community call was on the different work groups, which I found really helpful because I think people are interested, such as the NLP working group update. So we did have that from Hua last week, and also the EHR, I believe the EHR working group update. So I think those are really kind of helpful for us to know kind of what's going on for the master development area. So I recommend everyone, if you're interested, please go to the news website, the website that Song is sharing now, as well as if you go to, the homepage and there is the OHDSI general community call recording where you can see kind of all of the recordings and also the deck. So that's really kind of for, and also there is, I know we discussed a little bit about like all of the recordings from EU Symposium are out on the webpage, but also we did have, from Nigel Hughes on a general recap late June as well. So feel free to check it out. And then with that, we will have, first have Ivan to present on the APAC study updates on the comparison of mortality, morbidities, healthcare resource utilization between patients with and without COVID-19 diagnosis, which is also short for the Hong Kong U AKISO study. So Ivan, if you'd like to share your screen.
Yeah, sure. Hello, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
We can see your screen, but your voice is a little low. You might want to.
All right, sorry. Let me have a look. If I speak louder, does it makes it any better?
Yep.
Yep.
Great. Okay. So yes, thank you very much, Jing, for the introduction. So yes, this is Ivan from the Hong Kong U team. So today I will give you guys a very brief update on our progress on the OHDSI APAC study number 2. So yes, since our last quarterly community core updates, we have managed to perform the cohort diagnostic package with the help from Gotham. So now we have definitions of COVID-19 patients that we will bring forward into the development of our study package. We also did some revision on our study protocol, including the definitions for some of the outcome cohorts using, through adapting from another study from the OHDSI community and also from the Phenotype February campaign. We also updated some of the subgroup analysis that we wish to perform for our study. So the revised study protocol has been uploaded onto our team space under our project. So please feel free to have a read. In addition, we have submitted an abstract on our study protocol to the upcoming OHDSI symposium in the US. So yes, we're still waiting for for the results for to see whether we will be able to present our study in the symposium. On the study package side, we've acquired the support from IQVIA to develop the initial study package. So yes, just a massive thanks to the IQVIA team from Jing and also Xiaoyu on helping us to support us on developing this study package. So here are some of the preliminary results that I can share with the community today. So here are the cumulative numbers of COVID-19 patients identified from the 5 databases from IQVIA. So as you can see, we managed to obtain quite a sizable group of COVID-19 patients that we are going to include in our study. So for our upcoming plans, our Hong Kong U team will continue to work on these study package for this project, and we'll finalize the definitions and the settings for within the study package. And we hope to run a pilot study between around mid to late August. And the pilot study we plan to run will have a shorter study period than our main study. So the inclusion period will be 1 year, and we will only focus on the short to medium term outcomes, which may occur up to 1 year following their COVID-19 infection. And also for the pilot study, we will focus mainly on the main analysis on the clinical outcomes. So we may not perform all the subgroup analysis written in our protocol, and we may not run our study on the healthcare resources utilization. And for this pilot study, we aim to include data from the 5 IQVIA databases, our local Hong Kong Hospital Authority data, and also some of the data from the OHDSI collaborators. So one of them we hope to include will be the South Korea HERA data that Chen is currently helping us to look into whether we can obtain data from the HERA in South Korea. So, and if any of the collaborators would like to join us for either the pilot study or the main study, then please feel free to get in touch. And this is the end of my presentation. So thank you very much for listening. And if there's any questions or comments, then please feel free to let me know. Thank you.
I've just submitted the application for the data usage of HERA for the COVID-19 research today. So we need to wait for whether our study has been approved from HERA or not. But yeah, I think it's promising, and I've succeeded to submit with the IRB approval. Thanks.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much for the support.
Very cool. So any other questions, comments from the audience? All right, so with that, thank you so much, Ivan. And then next we will have Nicole from Australia to talk about the treatment utilization and safety of medicines for MS. So Nicole, would you like? Oh, Yeah, I can
Sure.
see your screen now.
I got it. Okay, well, thanks everybody for being here today for these updates. It's exciting to see the progress. I feel like we haven't made quite as much progress here in this MS study, and I'll sort of go through some of the reasons for that. But I think we're on track to developing this package. So, for those of you that don't already know about this study, what we're trying to do here is understand the utilisation and the safety of medicines used in patients with multiple sclerosis. So we have an aptly named acronym called TELEMUS, which is a character in the Odyssey novel, as per the Odyssey, other Odyssey studies. Okay, so the issues we've been grappling with in this study is really around the phenotype development for MS. So back in February, in the Phenotype February studies, there was a day dedicated to MS, and there were lots of different definitions for the cohorts that were created during that day. And those phenotypes really were a mixture of diagnosis for MS or medicine use for MS. And the trouble with this particular disease is it's quite difficult to actually diagnose. It can be a rule out diagnosis, or not all, there's no specific test for the disease. So it's a little bit tricky identifying patients with MS, perhaps that are not treated with medicines. So we're very clear that there are, certain medicines that are used in MS, but the diagnosis is potentially a bit uncertain. So we've gone through and got a list of medicines that are used in MS, and thanks to the Hong Kong team who's also checked that list for us to make sure that we're not missing any particular medicines. So we've got a good list of medicines for MS, but our real issue, as I was just talking about before, is how do we define patients with multiple sclerosis? So in the Phenotype February, this Culpeper algorithm came up as having, the best offset of sensitivity and specificity. And the Culpeper algorithm talks about having at least 3 conditions or 3 disease-modifying agents for MS, or any combination of those 3. So one of the things we're really trying to understand in this study is how can we identify patients who perhaps have medicines for MS but don't have a diagnosis, and vice versa, have a diagnosis but no medicines. And the reason why this is kind of important, at least for us here in Australia, is that when we ran this Culpeper algorithm, we don't have outpatient diagnosis in our data set. So we have to rely pretty much on the medicines or inpatient diagnosis. And one of the things we want to understand is, who will we be missing, or who are we including in our study that don't actually have MS if we don't have outpatient diagnosis. So that's sort of the first question, is using this Culpeper algorithm, what is the overlap between patients identified via diagnosis and those identified by medicines, or the combination of the two? So we're developing some cohorts to test that and understand who we're missing and who we're including. So the second part, as I mentioned, is we don't have diagnosis in outpatient diagnosis. However, in Australia at least, and this is where I need some input from other countries, the indication for getting the medicine is that patients must be treated by a neurologist or have a test like a MRI test. So we're planning on including those algorithms in our phenotype to understand, in the absence of the diagnostic information, can we be certain that a patient who's on a medicine for MS is taking that medicine for MS. And I think it was there was another, I'm forgetting the name of the phenotype, but there was some phenotypes looking at MRIs and neurologist visits. So we're going to add those in to our phenotype as well. So that's the second question. And lastly, looking at the disease modifying therapies, as I mentioned, we're pretty certain we've got a list that covers all of the potential medicines for MS. However, the trouble with a few of these medicines is that they can be used for other conditions. So where we don't have a diagnosis, it's potential, these medicines are potentially used for other things like cancer and that kind of thing. So Rituximab, for example, is a medicine that can be used for MS, but it's actually not indicated here in Australia for use in MS. So we have to exclude Rituximab because it's only available for other immune conditions. So we're going to be looking at, the impact of these multiple indication medicines in our algorithm, or in our phenotype for MS. Another issue that we're grappling with as well with the Culpeper algorithm, the 3 occurrences of the medication for MS or 3 occurrences of a diagnosis for MS needed to have occurred in a 1-year period. Now, for most medicines, that's applicable, but there are some medicines in the MS treatment algorithm that are actually infusions that only occur every 6 months or every 12 months. So by having that restriction of at least 3 occurrences of a medicine in a year, we're actually excluding some of the treatments. So alemtuzumab and ocrelizumab, for example, are both 6 and 12 monthly infusions. So the algorithm needs to reflect the treatment pattern of these medicines. And I'm not exactly sure how that works across different countries. So when we run these packages, we'll need to be cognizant of that issue as well. So we'll have different versions of those algorithms to make sure we're actually reflecting the use in real world practice. So that's kind of where we're up to, but I just wanted to remind everybody that the reason we're doing this study and the reason why it's worth putting in the effort to get these algorithms or these phenotypes correct is that there's been a very big change in the treatment profile of medicines in multiple sclerosis. So this is a study we've done previously looking at treatment pathways and looking at, earlier treatment pathways were the sort of the traditional approaches, and now in the current era we've got much more use of early aggressive treatment approaches, and there's 2 large randomized controlled trials that are going on at the moment, the Deliver MS study and the Treat MS study, that are actually investigating the effectiveness of early aggressive treatment approaches compared to traditional approaches. And it looks like in practice, actually, that's what's happening most often, is that patients are starting earlier in their treatment pathway on the highly effective treatments. So it's really important, I think, to understand, what's happening across the world and where treatment patterns are moving, and really try to determine the effectiveness and, of course, the safety of those different approaches in MS. The other thing we've done as well, 2 weeks ago, Ty Stanford did a presentation in our work group meeting just on how we're actually building the treatment pathway package. And if anybody's interested in and hasn't seen that, in how you actually build this package, go and have a look at the recording. It's in our channel on Teams. It just gives you a good overview of how you actually go about building these packages. So that's where we're up to. I guess the progress at the moment, we're building the study package, but as I mentioned, we've got all these questions on the actual cohorts that we're also delving into. So we're building this package, and hopefully it'll be ready for testing in the next month or two. And it will also, do the cohorts. We're going to look at the characteristics of initiators over time, look at the trends in use over time of the different therapies, and then of course do the treatment pathways with a specific focus on these different approaches to treatment pathways in MS. So that's where we're up to. If you want to join us for our work group meetings, we have them on a Wednesday every fortnight. So it was yesterday, but we cancelled that because we're meeting today, but it will be in 2 weeks' time, the next meeting at 11 a.m. Korean time. And jump on the MS channel if you haven't already and join up. So thanks, Jing.
Cool. Thank you, Nicole. Yes, and also I think everyone under OHDSI APAC Teams channel, you can access and kind of check through everything in the Study 3 chat. I think it's called channel. Sorry, I'm just getting confused with Teams language. Yeah, so everyone should be able to kind of look through like every study information under the OHDSI APAC Teams. Cool. Do we have any questions? Oh, yeah, I see Chen.
Okay, Nicole, you said that you don't have multiple sclerosis diagnosis for outpatients. So do you mean that you don't have data for just outpatient, or the condition, special conditions such as multiple sclerosis is not diagnosed in the outpatient setting?
That's right. We have records of outpatient visits, so general practitioner visits, but we have no diagnosis of what happened in that visit. So other than if they, they got prescribed a medicine or they did a particular test, that's all there, but not the diagnosis that they saw the general practitioner or whoever for MS related reasons. So which is why we're going to have to probably look into, treatment by a neurologist, which would indicate that at least they've been referred to a specialist. Yeah. Sorry, Jing, did you want to ask a question?
No, I was just thinking, I was literally looking up like epi report if there are any available, kind of just because I know like in the phenotype, cohort, in the phenotype February, like MS one, like you're in general are looking at the prevalence rate of like, obviously Asian countries, it's lower prevalence and everything, compared to the other parts of the world. Like, are we doing part of that in a study as well, just to look at, what's the progress and how many people? The trend and all that.
Correct. That was the first idea that I think that's going to be quite hard to do, particularly for the countries that we don't have the diagnosis, because for us we kind of need to rely on medicine use to identify MS. So we will underestimate MS patients not treated, right? But when I looked at the results of the Phenotype February with the Culpeper phenotype, nearly 90 or 95%, I can't remember the exact number, were treated anyway. So I think nowadays many people are treated, and there won't be a big group of people who are untreated. So using the phenotype with medicines is going to be a good estimate of MS. But that's what I want to test in data sets that have both. It would be good to look at the overlap so that we can understand, are we going to be underestimating MS by a long way?
Got it. I see Chen has a question.
Oh, yes. So I'm not sure, because I'm not the neurologist, but the glucocorticoid or steroid can be a treatment for the multiple sclerosis too, right? So, but I cannot see that the treatment in your data or the core definition. So Do you have any reasons to exclude this treatment?
Well, I think there's, that those treatments are so non-specific to MS.
Yeah, indeed.
That's the problem. So including them, you'll get a lot of false positives, I think, without any other, So again, I think this is where we really need to engage a MS treating physician to really understand what would be the approach in patients who are not going to be treated with a disease-modifying therapy.
And another question of mine is that has OHDSI already characterized the multiple sclerosis patients in the previous paper, which was published in the BMJ, that investigating the baseline incidence of AESI, haven't we?
Yeah, I did look at that, and I'll need to look again because I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember that whether there is a MS or not.
Yeah.
The paper.
Mark, were you involved in that study, the characterization?
Yeah, but you should never listen to me.
Oh.
I don't recall MS here.
No, I think I did look at that, and perhaps I can't remember because it wasn't there. But I will check again. That's a good idea, Chan.
I mean, you certainly are aware.
It's not there, Nicole.
Earlier
Sorry?
work done in Phenotype February.
Oh yes, yeah. We definitely looked at that.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not in the COVID ASI work. That's not an outcome that we had.
Oh, cool. Okay. Thanks, Patrick. I didn't see you online. I would have asked you that question.
Yeah, no worries. I would trust Mark before I'd trust me.
Ah.
As much as little you should trust Mark, you should trust me less than Mark.
In this case, we both got it right.
Sorry.
So, by the way, Jing is in the office. I think she's at that moment where she's about to be kicked out from the conference room. Yeah, so Jing, I can coordinate if you need to leave. Yeah.
Sorry, I need to leave. Let me find another conference room.
So yeah, other than the questions that has come up, anybody else in the audience have any questions that they would like to ask Nicole?
I guess just one comment, Nicole, to the challenges that you're facing. I don't know if it would be helpful for you, but just to throw it out, if there are cohorts that you are wanting to assess, let's say like as compared to the Culpeper definition that are just based on drugs alone, because the Culpeper had been run with cohort diagnosis on some databases, like I'm certainly happy, like before you try to kick off an analysis across a bunch of databases where you don't know what the answer is, if you want to run candidate definitions across like the same like US claims databases just to see the overlap, we could certainly run that in cohort diagnostics really easily. Cool. And I think that I don't know that it would give you the answer to your question, but at least, for example, the open question seems to me to be an issue of sensitivity and specificity because several of those MS drugs also have other autoimmune indications. But I have no idea about the magnitude of how big that problem is. But like a simple thing would be create a cohort that's just the drugs, just kind of like as you're anticipating, and we run those against the same databases that we ran the Culpeper. And then in cohort diagnostics, there's the overlap function, which would just tell us how many people met the Culpeper that were in your drug one, and how many are in drug only, not in Culpeper, and vice versa. Got it. And that might give at least initial insight before you make a selection of a cohort.
Got it. Yep. No, thank you. That's a great idea.
Sorry, I do have the conference room. I think it's just the other person probably got the wrong conference room. Anyway, so Nicole, I do have a quick comment because I think I was actually chatting with the other Chinese local clinician, and I think the good part, like I'm being very positive, that it's about MS in Asian countries is really because it's low prevalence in general. So there are not many kind of, like local drugs, like per se, developed by local pharma companies. So they are more just, the global ones, they just, we just imported and then added to the national health reimbursement system. So basically the drug are all just imported from you know, like the Western Hemisphere and all that. So like for the drug list, to identify those people, it will be pretty much the same drug list as you would imagine, you know, in Australia, in the States versus in like, you know, Asian countries, because really just because not much like specific drug developed by local pharmas. So that's really the case here. So which kind of make our concept set definition easier. It's just so
Oh, I totally agree that the medicine list itself is quite standard, and we've checked, you know, we've gone through and checked that very closely. But what I do worry about is the actual use in practice. You know, particularly for the infusion products, you know, the tablets are not so bad, you know, you get one tablet, but the infusion, you know, is a once every 6 months or once every, you know, 12 months. And then, you know, there's somewhere, you know, at least in Australia, you can only get 2 courses. So you'll only ever see 2 of them in the data set. So, you know, there's, I think, some kind of practical issues we'll need to sort out with some of the different formulations to make sure we're including the right people. And it may well be that, you know, the treatment patterns are different for the different indications, which would help us also to distinguish their use in MS compared to, you know, something like cancer, for example. So, yeah, there's a lot to investigate here, which I think is quite fun to understand how we do this and how we run studies cross country when practices are different in different countries. And it's just something I think we need to take into account. Yeah.
Hi, Nicole, Song here. I just want to ask a follow-up question that Chan asked, right? So in your outpatient data set, so it wasn't clear to me. Is it like, do GPs in Australia not make a diagnosis, or like, I'm just trying to understand why there is no diagnosis in the specific data set you're talking about?
Because it doesn't have anything to do with cost, right? So, so we can tell like whether it was a GP visit, it was a long consult or it was a short consult, because there's different costs involved, right? But not the specific diagnosis or the reason. At least like in the data set that I have, right? There are other data sets. You know, Roger online, for example, has a GP practice database that would have that diagnosis and recorded in the GP notes. But in terms of the cost of the visit to the government in the MBS, in the item itself, it's not recorded, it's not needed. So it's there. It's just not in the data set I have access to, or in the large claims database in Australia.
Okay, so the data set you specifically have is a claims database. And,
correct. Yep.
And even, you know, in Korea, like, you would have a diagnosis to go with that claim. But yeah, although I'm not 100% understanding the Australian healthcare system, okay, it's I guess it's a unique thing for the data set you have at the moment, right? Like,
oh yes, Australia is very unique in a lot of ways.
Okay. Yeah, no further questions from me. Thank you.
All right, cool. Any other questions from the audience or thoughts? Cool. Oh, and also, by the way, like, I think MS for, like, I was reading on the news the other day in China, like the system too, it's like, it was really like probably in the last 3 years or so that those new drugs are in the national reimbursement list, meaning that people can pay very small money to get it. So it would be more, you know, widely used, but it's really recent that they added those. IQVIA China helped them to be like, was working with the and blah blah blah. So they are on the you know, the reimbursement list. So it's affordable, more affordable, and of course will be more used for people.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, cool. I think that's all we have for today. And then before we close the call, just want to do a quick preview. So in our next two community calls, so we'll be kind of sharing the work group. So I'll be replaying the work group updates from the global calls, and then we are actually actively inviting like for those who were in the European symposium, because we do have the new kind of the relatively new European chapters to share their journey. So we thought would be great. So I think we asked them during the EU symposium back then, but now we're also kind of approaching and asking them to asking Peter to see if we can invite them actually to either join or do a pre-recording. Oh, hello. Doing a pre-recording to share kind of their experiencing of, starting a new chapter in the, from their perspective that we could kind of also learn from it. So please stay tuned. I'll be kind of probably around September timeline that we're kind of hoping to invite the Europe chapter leaders to share their experience here. Work in progress or trying to nail their time. And I do. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh no, that was it.
Yeah, I was gonna say before we close, Nicole, Ivan, I would appreciate if you send me your slides so that I can send those over to Craig to post on the APAC community call website. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And of course, I'll be posting the recordings and everything on odyssey.org/APAC. All right, thank you guys. Have a good day.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.